At number 10 spot, we have Slaughterhouse Canyon. This story shares similar characteristics as the story of La Llorona, so basically all sorts of messed up. In the late 1800s, a family lived inside of a small wooden shack in the middle of Slaughterhouse Canyon. The husband was a hardworking man and wanted nothing more but to provide and care for his own family. And around this time, gold rushes were a big thing, so it wasn't uncommon to have men leave the family for weeks on end. So one day, the husband decided to go out on one of these gold rushes, but weeks turned into months and the husband never ended up returning. This caused the family to starve and suffer, but this had the most effect on the wife, who became extremely delusional from hunger and grief. This delusion caused her to grab an axe and proceeded to murder all of her children. She then carried their bodies to the nearby river where she screamed for days supposedly, until she passed away from starvation. And according to local residents, the wails and sobs of a heartbroken and psychotic mother can still be heard within the canyon at night. Number 9, the Muggin Monster. This beast is also known as Arizona's Bigfoot, and as you can see from the photos, you can see why. This monster is said to live on the Muggin Rim, which is a steep cliff that runs 200 miles from eastern Arizona all the way to New Mexico. The monster is also spotted within the Ponderosa pine forest as well. Those who have spotted it have said it stood 7 feet tall, covered in hair, and walked upright like a bipedal. The same people who saw it also noted how territorial and violent they can be. But really, why would anyone want to mess with these guys? It's said that if you smell rotting flesh nearby, then the Muggin Monster is really close. So when that happens, be sure to dip straight out of the area. Number 8, Skinwalkers. If you know a thing or two about mythical creatures, then you must know about Skinwalkers. Well, yeah. Arizona is their home, unfortunately. Arizona is deeply rooted in the Navajo culture, so this is a beast that originates from that. A skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or even disguise himself as another animal. For some infight, the Navajo believed in powers and that it could be used for either good or evil. Medicine men use the powers for good in order to heal and apply aid, but the alternative route is to use the powers for bad. Only when a person commits the evilest of deeds will they be given supernatural powers, turning them into a skinwalker. They can transform into anything they want as well, including any animal or human. And the worst part is that if you stare into the eyes of a skinwalker, they can absorb themselves within your own body. So yeah, let that one sink in with you. Number 7, Two Guns. Along Interstate 40, stuck between Flagstaff and Winslow, is the Arizona ghost town of Two Guns. Not much remains of this once thriving town after fire in 1971 nearly burnt it to a crisp. However, this wasn't the only time the town faced bad luck and tragedy. In 1878, the story goes that a group of Apaches raided a Navajo camp and took off toward Canyon Diablo. The Navajo gave chase and found their enemies hidden in a small cave in a shallow part of the canyon. They ended up burning 42 of them. Ever since this massacre, the town has been said to be cursed. Further confirming this, in the 1920s, this town started to become alive again with new buildings including a trading post, restaurant, gas station, and even a post office. This development didn't stop there. Eventually, a new zoo was going to be created, except the builders decided to excavate the local cave where the massacre occurred. They ended up pulling out a lot of human bones and skulls and used them for decorations. Yeah, I know. At our number 6 spot, we have the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. East of Phoenix, Arizona, a local legend arose, inspiring many men to find riches they could only imagine. The Lost Dutchman's gold mine is possibly the most famous lost mine in all the world, and people have been trying to find its whereabouts since 1892. The story goes that in the late 1800s, a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz found a gold mine that made him wealthy overnight. But as many of us would probably do, he kept it a secret from everyone. Fast forward, and on his deathbed, he would give a handful of people the directions to find this cave. However, these directions did nothing because it's still lost today. Each year, a little under 10,000 people attempt to find this lost mine, and unfortunately, this expedition has cost many of them their lives. Many of them are found headless, shot by a firearm, or go completely missing from the grid. So if you ever want to become very rich really quick, why not give it a shot and find this lost mine? In the hump of our list, we have the Wraith. Many of you have seen this image somewhere on the internet, but the people of Arizona have seen this creature in person. These monsters are said to reside in the Grand Canyon caverns near Peach Springs, Arizona. They are described to be 9 feet tall, slender beings that only appear at night and having a thirst for human flesh. And it's pretty easy for them to devour us because it's said that their claws are the size of our fingers alone. You will know one is nearby just by the sound they make. It resembles a high screech, and at close ranges, it could even make a person deaf. These creatures have been spotted all the way back since 1800s, and ever since they have made their mark on Arizona's history. Number 4, Arizona State Prison Complex. Since 1910, death sentences have been carried out in the Florence prison. According to the Arizona Department of Corrections website, about 100 inmates have been executed by hanging, lethal injection, or gas chambering on the grounds of the state's first secret prison in Florence in the past 100 years. And let me tell you, from all those deaths, a lot of ghosts are bound to come. And it shouldn't come as a surprise that there have been quite a few supernatural tales told over the years, coming from both prisoners and guards. Both have reported seeing several instances of, quote, mist that look in the human form, or having their ears assaulted with, quote, screams and other strange sounds. Much of this paranormal activity occurs in the building that houses the prison's death chamber, which would make a lot of sense to say that these are the ghosts of former inmates. Number 3, Oliver House. This building is considered to be the most haunted hotel in all of Arizona, so I guess I'll be booking my next visit right now. I'm just joking. So the reason why many claim this is the most haunted hotel in the state is the fact that 26 lives were lost in this building since it first opened in the early 1900s. So yeah, this house has a bloody history. During the gold rush, the house served as a hotel for miners, and one story involves a miner by the name of Nathaniel Anderson who stayed in room 13 at the Oliver House. He would be caught going out with the wife of someone he owes money to, and days after, he would be found dead with 2 gunshot wounds. Guests of room 13 now claim to see his ghost near the stairs before it completely enters the room. One DJ even booked the room after a $100 bet, and the moment he stepped in, he said he saw Anderson's body standing in the middle of the room. Number 2, Jerome Grand Hotel. This hotel first started as a hospital, and as we know, hospitals are haunted. Just kidding. But hospitals are inevitably going to have a lot of lives lost within, and as they say, more deaths, more ghosts. You get the point. After the building turned into a hotel, many residents claimed supernatural activity within the halls, in their rooms, and basically everywhere in the hotel. And many placed blame on the former patients who passed away in the former hotel. Apart from the haunting, the place is also a beacon of bad luck. A man named Cloud Harvey lost his life after being crushed by a self-service elevator, and another 5 people took their own lives inside of this hotel. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have Territorial Prison. Yuma's Territorial Prison is known for being a gloomy and unwelcoming place for visitors, and is situated as far west as you can go before approaching California. Over 3,000 prisoners were kept in this prison throughout its 33-year operational period. Inmates who committed murder, theft, and even worse were jailed in here. The walls of this jail were so high that the inmates were unable to see the outside, and the worst among them was placed in the dark cell. The convicts were banished into the darkness, left to their own devices to cast any curses or evil thoughts they dared. With its rich history and tragic figures, it is now a fascinating museum to visit with your family. At a number 10 spot, we have the Night Marchers. According to Hawaiian lore, the Night Marchers were an ancient Hawaiian warriors in their past life, but their spirits march the island carrying torches now. But don't worry about hiding from them, because you'll definitely hear them well before you see them, as they play a distinctly loud drum while they march. They're believed to be stuck on the island for many different reasons. Some of the claims are they are looking to reclaim rightful territory or avenge a battle they had previously lost. These spirits are not entirely evil, but they do demand respect. For example, if you are unfortunate enough to cross paths with them, try your best not to interrupt. And I'll stress you not to look into their eyes, as you will meet your doom from even one glance from these warriors. Since they are ghosts, nothing can stop them from their path, not even buildings. So when you see them, do exactly this. Or another option is to lie down on the floor, but wouldn't you think that walking away is a better option? No? Anyone? At a number 9 spot, we have Morgan's Corner. This one takes place in the island of Oahu and is one of the most grisly murders on this list. Morgan's Corner got its name from a doctor who happened to live at this particular bend of the road. Then in 1948, it claimed that a couple of prisoners escaped the local prison and broke into a house looking for any sort of supplies. They broke into the home of 68-year-old Therese Wilder, who was below the home of Dr. James Morgan. They gagged her and later took her life by means of suffocation. Even though both of these criminals were caught and sent to jail, many say her screams for help can still be heard to this day. At number 8 spot, we have Pele, or the goddess of volcanoes, or she goes by another name called the woman who devours land, but I think that's a little bit too aggressive. It's said in Hawaii that every time a volcano erupts, it resembles Pele's longing to be with her true love. Her story varies, but the most popular rendition talks about a girl born in Tahiti who was sent away from her father because of her difficult temper and seducing her sister's husband. After leaving, she would encounter her sister once again, who took her life out of pure rage. This is when Pele became a full-fledged god before finding her home on a Hawaii island. Now it's said that if you remove the lava rocks on her island home, you will suffer years and years of bad luck and misfortune. And to this day, thousands of lava rocks are sent back to Hawaii due to people experiencing said bad luck. At number 7 spot, we have the Green Lady of Wahiawa. According to Hawaiian lore, a lady and her child would go to this botanical gardens often. Instead of taking their usual route on the bridge to go home, they decided to take the gulch because she feared of her children being struck by a car, since there was a fair amount of cars on the road at the time. When they took the gulch at night, the complex terrain separated the two and the woman would end up losing her daughter. She looked everywhere in the ravine, but as nothing popped up, she went to the townsfolk for assistance, but no one wanted to help as it was very late at night. As she went back to look down once again, she ended up going missing as well. Now it's believed that she still roams a gulch covered in moss and vines with a distinct decaying smell, which is the reason why she is considered the Green Lady. She supposedly snatches children she finds in the area to fill the void she had from losing her daughter. And she's also spotted at the local elementary school acting as a mother picking up her own child. At a number 6 spot, we have the Konyana Cave. The Konyana Cave is located at the base of a cliff along the Farrington Highway of Oahu. The cave formed over 150,000 years ago. According to Hawaiian legend, Konyana Cave is home to the underground shark god Nanaue, the son of Komahoali, or the king of sharks, the most sacred brother of the fire goddess Pele. Nanaue was born with a mouth on his back and his mother never fed him meat, but when he was 7 he accidentally ate one and slowly would become this shark-like humanoid with razor-sharp teeth and gills. He had an appetite for human flesh after that and would use his cave as a lair until one of the day a group of villagers came down and hunted him down for good. Now it's said that if you see an elderly Hawaiian man cooking meat near a cave, it's actually the spirit of Nanaue. In the hump of our list, we have the faceless ghost of Wale Drive-In Theater. Supposedly at the Wale Drive-In Theater, there's a faceless ghost of a woman who stands near the lady's bathroom combing her hair. When you get too close to her, she will toss her hair to the side to reveal her perfectly featureless face as smooth as polished stone. The drive-in is supposedly haunted by these ghosts because it was built to an old cemetery in Kahala, which has since been torn down and transformed into commercial and residential buildings. Reports of the Faceless Woman began on May 19, 1959, when the person who first spotted her was hospitalized after a mental breakdown. This would become big in local news and many would come to the theater in hopes to experience this tragedy. After, many women would be found unconscious on the restroom floor who were said to be approached by the Faceless Woman. At our number 4 spot were the Menohunde. These Hawaiian mythical beings are said to be located deep within the forest of the island. These 3-foot tall beings are said to be experts at building, where legends say that they would build temples, fish ponds, roads, and even homes for the Hawaiians. According to lore, if you interrupt them when they are working, they will vanish out of thin air, but in some rare cases they come back to you with only negative intentions. A story goes that a group of teens went on a beach to have a bonfire. When they arrived, they noticed an odd looking shrine, but as they focused more on it, they noticed these little faces and shadows of little people in the forest behind it. Scared by this, the teens decided to find offerings to give to the shrine. One teen came out of the forest with an apple, running, after a group of Menohunde started to circle him. All the teens managed to escape, but this incident remains a reminder not to mess with these beings. All the way at a number 3 spot, we have the Illuminati Palace. From scary sounds to unexplained apparitions, Illuminati Palace reigns high with paranormal activity. Built in 1882, the meticulously restored palace was once home to Hawaii's last ruling royalty, King Kalakaua, and his sister Queen Lilikuali. She was imprisoned in the palace within her bedroom for 8 months following the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. Although the queen physically passed away in 1917, it's believed that her spirit, along with a few others, are still roaming the halls of the royal home. Visitors on tours and security guards on duty have reported hearing footsteps, smelling the scent of burning cigars, and seeing the silhouette of a woman standing in the window of what was once the queen's bedroom. At number 2 spot, we have the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. This international airport, located in Honolulu, is considered one of the most haunted airports in all of America, and for good reason. The airport is said to be haunted by the Lady in Waiting, who is a blonde girl who wears a white dress and appears in areas where people aren't allowed. The story goes that a woman fell for a man who pledged to marry her, but at a random turn of events, he took back his promise and vanished out of thin air. After she suspected the man left on a flight, she went to that airport and took her own life in one of the bathrooms. Now it's said that her spirit still remains in the airport, but is more prevalent in the bathrooms, with reports of her slamming the toilet seats and tugging on people's clothes. At the airport is said another ghost who is known for choking guests. It's said that this ghost sits on the chest of others and gives them the sensation of choking. Guess I'm taking a boat on my next Hawaii trip. At our number 1 spot, we have the ghost of Pearl Harbor. The Pearl Harbor incident was known as the reason for America's entry into World War II. This happened on December 7, 1941, when the Japanese led an attack to destroy as many military and civilian vessels in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. This attack caused the casualties of around 2,400 US personnel, including 68 civilians, and damaged or destroyed 19 US Navy ships, including 8 battleships. It's said that the spirits of those who passed still remain on Pearl Harbor to this day. One of the ghosts that can be spotted on the grounds is the ghost of a man named Charlie. When heavy doors begin to swing back and forth or lights being flickered on and off, everyone who works there just says, quote, "That's just Charlie," as if it was some casual thing or something. Don't know about you, but I would expect everyone who passed away from this attack to become malevolent ghosts in the future, but I guess this one just got tired of it all. As people approach the shrine built to commemorate the event, many claim to feel the instant feeling of sadness and a pain feeling. At a number 10 spot, we have the Octagon House. This building is considered to be the most haunted home in all of DC, and after reading about this, I think it could be one of the most haunted places in North America. It was built by Colonel John Taylor back in the year 1801. The builder had its close connections to the presidents, and after the White House burned in 1812, President James and Dolly Madison lived there for a temporary time. Now it's claimed that the entire house is haunted by the daughters of Colonel John Taylor. His first daughter passed away before the War of 1812, and the other ones passed away shortly after the year 1817. They are known to follow visitors around until they decide to leave the house altogether. As well, the house has been said to hold slaves back in the day, and many say the spirits of these slaves still remain inside of the house. There used to be a ring inside of the building to call the slaves, but after the War of 1812, the bell would seem to be ringing non-stop. In another instance, a gambler was even shot on the 3rd floor of this building, and many visitors claim they still see his lifeless body on the bed during some nights. At a number 9 spot, we have the St. Elizabeth Psychiatric Hospital. Opening in 1855, St. Elizabeth was the first federally operated psychiatric hospital in the United States, and at the time, it would house as many as 8,000 patients. Over the years, many people came to this hospital for treatment of their mental illnesses, as well as to house many of the wounded during the Civil War. However, by the 1950s, the hospital was under heavy criticism for the way they treated their patients, which caused many to pass away there as well. Then over the years, they would begin to lose more and more patients until temporarily closing down in 2002. Now that the east side of the campus has a new facility with new patients, many workers have claimed that it's one of the most haunted places in DC. Overnight staff workers claim to hear constant groaning sounds in the places of the hospital that aren't being used. And also as well, many people claim to see the spirit of Dr. Walter Freeman, who can be seen in the morgue performing lobotomies, considering he was one of the pioneers of the psychosurgery. At number 8 spot, we have the Congressional Cemetery. The Congressional Cemetery, or the Washington Parish Burial Ground, was established all the way in 1807, and nowadays it has as many as 65,000 graves occupying the grounds. This number alone should tell you that you may feel the presence of more than a few entities in this area. One notorious ghost spotted in the area is Civil War photographer Matthew Brady. Story goes that the Congress promised him money to take war photos, but when he brought them the photos, they never ended up paying him, not even $1. So in the end, he died with nothing to his name. Nowadays, he terrorizes the graves of the government officials who denied him compensation, and if you try to take a photo of his ghost, you'll find that your device is now broken. Over the years, this place has gone through many different grave robbers, which led to many disturbed spirits scattered around the entire cemetery. So, for a warning, visit this place at your own risk. At number 7 spot with the Omni Shoreham Hotel. This grand hotel was built in 1930, and ever since its opening, there has been hundreds of reports from visitors claiming to see something supernatural within. It all started when one of the hotel's financial partners named Henry Doherty moved his entire family from what is now known as Suite 870. On their first night, their maid Juliet Brown called the hotel desk in a panic to tell them that she wasn't feeling good, but then before anyone could get to her room, she just passed away. Soon after, Mr. Doherty's wife and daughter would pass away. This would make Henry distraught, leaving the hotel with that suite being unoccupied for the next 50 years. Then, when Henry's apartment was converted into a hotel suite and reopened, staff and guests would claim to hear the sounds of faint voices coming from the dark corners of the room. And many reported that around 4 AM, all the electronics inside of the room, including the lights and the TV, would aggressively flicker for a short time period. Now the room has been called the Ghost Suite, and I dare any of you guys to try a night at this place if you're in the area. At number 6 spot, we have Escaping Alcatraz. Frank Morris was surprisingly an intelligent criminal with an IQ of over 130. He was born in Washington, D.C., and his parents abandoned him when he was only 11 years old, so he spent the rest of his childhood in foster homes. He was convicted of his first criminal offense at 13, and by his late teens had been arrested for crimes ranging from narcotic possession to armed robbery. He spent most of his early years in jail serving lunch to prisoners. The odd thing is that Morris was reportedly ranked in the top 2% of the general population in intelligence. He was measured by the IQ testing and he got a score of 133. He served time in Florida and Georgia, then escaped from the Louisiana State Penitentiary while serving 10 years for bank robbery. He was recaptured a year later while committing another burglary and sent to Alcatraz on January 20th, 1960 as inmate number AZ-1441. He was part of the infamous 5-person crew who managed to escape Alcatraz. The crew used a raft made of raincoats and fake heads they sculpted during their time there to just trick all the guards. In the hump of our list, we have the Old Brick Capitol. This building once stood where the USS Supreme Court building stands, so it has a very rich history associated with it. The Old Brick Capitol was built in 1815 and was used as a temporary Capitol building for the United States. Throughout its time, it also served as a private school, a prison, and a boarding house during the Civil War. During its time as a prison, it was one of the most abusive ones. It had poor living conditions, and most of the prisoners were far more depressed than in any other prison in the world. This lack of care and attention caused many prisoners to pass away in the process, so it's no surprise that many came back as vengeful spirits. Visitors to the land report hearing banging on metal bars and distant cries of former convicts pleading for their lives. Many of the people can hear a person crying throughout their entire visit. Despite being kind of annoying, I don't think you would be brave enough to tell a person to stop doing this, especially if it's a full-fledged ghost. At number 4 spot, we have the British soldier Firestarter. It was during the War of 1812 that the Great Burning of Washington occurred. In this attack, many important buildings in the capital were burned down, including the White House, then called the Presidential Mansion. Then things got unexpectedly worse for the British. As the US government fled the White House, the British thought victory was near. But then a grand-scale thunderstorm alongside a tornado swept the entire area around the White House, killing both British soldiers and American civilians in the process. If you can imagine a Michael Bay movie, that's exactly how I picture this scene going down. Now, it's said that a lonesome British soldier whose garments date all the way back to the 1800s appears on the White House lawn every now and again. It's said that the soldier is still roaming around the lawn of the White House with a rather large torch, almost as if the flame was eternal. At number 3 spot, we have Mary Todd Lincoln. Wife of Abraham Lincoln, Mary Todd Lincoln was said to have practiced spiritualism in the White House frequently. Influenced by the death of her second son, spiritualism was practiced by Mary to communicate with him and others she held dear in the afterlife. She would report speaking to her late son daily and would conduct seances within the walls of the White House. As word broke out, desperate families would come to her seeking the unknown. And in the midst of the Civil War, many widowed wives came to her in order to speak to their husbands. Mary would begin to notice strange things in the White House, such as hearing stomping and swearing in the room of former President Andrew Jackson, known as the Rose Room. At number 2 spot, we have the Demon Cat. Spotted time and time again around the White House, the Demon Cat takes on many different variations, 2 different people appearing as a normal-sized cat to some and as large as an elephant to others. The Secret Service has reported seeing paw prints around the White House, which is surprising since no pets are allowed in this White House. The weird thing is that the cat only appears during a presidential switch or a national tragedy. Basically, we can call it the bearer of bad news, and potentially this is where we get the idea of an unlucky black cat. At a number 1 spot, we have an Illuminati Influence street design. When people begin to look at Washington, D.C. from a bird's eye view, many have realized that the street designs incorporates the use of occult symbols, including an inverted pentagram with the bottom pointing directly at the White House. An anti-Masonic Christian named Ed Decker said, quote, "The satanic pentagram under which the White House sits is an open door through which Satan has access to our president." So the person who designed the streets was a visionary planner named Pierre-Charles L'Enfant. And to many, he was considered to be a Freemason or at least part of the Illuminati. However, after deeper research, I found that he was inspired by the city of Karlsruhe, Germany, so he didn't take inspiration from any other group. Anyways, many parts of the street resemble Christian crosses as well, so easily another conspiracy theory could be made. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong and he is related to some sort of satanic group. And these are the top 10 District of Columbia scary urban legends. What do you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with some of your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this video for some more content. I'm your host Andrew, and I hope you guys have a scary day.